Good day, it's Arno Klaasen here from LifeWise, and today I want to talk to you very shortly about something that is very important that concerning the success that we live in our lives. I call it the highway in our lives, the ways of the Lord in our heart. It is according to a verse of scripture here in Psalm 84, verse 5 to 7, that is talking about people that's got the ways of the Lord in their heart. Now also there in Isaiah, it's talking about the highways of the Lord. Now it doesn't matter what you really call it, it's a way of a highway or whatever it be, because at the end of the day, it is indicating a certain lifestyle that become a sort of a default setting in your life. In life we see that things are not very easy always. When you want to go, say, over a mountain like we have in Cape Town, you want to go to Cape Town. Previously there was not a pass over the mountain. So to go over the mountain was a very intensive process, depending on whatever you take with you, or what you have with you, if you want to go over it with a car or anything, because, well, it was practically impossible with a car. But even to just walk over the mountain was very, very difficult. It would take you enormous lot of energy. It would take you enormous amount of time to go over it, because it's slowly, it's steep, it's very, very much obstacles and things that's hindering you to go over. Then people came and they studied the mountain, and they made a plan, and they start to make a road over the mountain, a pass, a highway, a way, or what you may call it. But they made a road over the mountain, and it took many, many years. Lots of people working very hard for years, 2-3 years. I don't know what was the exact time they took to build the pass over that mountain, but normally it's about years. And then when it's finished, they level it, and they put tar on the road, and then they put lights on the road, and reflectors, and even in the worst circumstances with fog and with rain, you can still with a car go slowly over the mountain. Because there's a highway now. It is something that is secure. You need to be careful, yes, but it is like a second nature. It is not something you need to think, this is going to stop somewhere. No, the road will go over. It was built very secure, and they spent a lot of money to secure the walls and everywhere, that the water doesn't take away the road and all these type of things. And they made a very secure highway that made it very easy for people to quickly go over the mountain. Even in daytime, it's like 10 minutes, you're over the mountain. Otherwise, it will take you maybe a day or two to go over the mountain without the pass. Now, this is a highway, this is a way, this is a road. And the Bible says to us here in Psalm 84, it says to us, verse 5, Blessed is the man whose strength is in you, whose heart it's got the ways of the Lord in it. It's got the ways of the Lord in it. It's got a highway in it. You see, it is very important that we need to create highways in our own lives, because it all depends. The success of our lives and what we're living, especially as believers, depends if we have highways in our lives. You see, life is not just you wake up in the morning and then we see what will happen, and then we will decide depending on what's happening and so forth. No, we've got highways. We've got ways of certain disciplines in our lives that we put in place, so that eventually a highway or a way is created out of it. So you eventually get a highway or a way in your life by applying lots of principles that's maybe the same thing. In having the ways of the Lord in your mind, you need to apply discipline upon your mind, not to think about all this negative and not to go wild about it, and because we need disciplines around all these things, that we don't go wild in our mind. We need the disciplines around our emotions, about our actions, the plans in our lives, the disciplines, how we eat is enormously important. How we treat your body and exercise your body, and all these things are very much important in this whole process, how you create a highway, because it's not just one time discipline once. No, to create a highway, you need to apply that same discipline over and over and over and over again, till eventually it will come to a place where it becomes a highway, where you no longer need to focus on it, because it becomes like a second nature, or as the computer people say, a default setting in your life. It's like just in you. You just live like that. It becomes becomes a kingdom lifestyle. And everything in the kingdom lifestyle is highways. It's all about certain principles and certain values and certain disciplines that eventually become a certain highway in our lives. And it takes energy, people. It is not, nothing is overnight. Nothing is just like one decision and one discipline once in your life and everything is settled and so forth. No, it takes discipline. God worked salvation, but we need to work it out. It's our responsibility to work it out in our soul, in our body, to work it out till it comes to a place where there's a channel where the life of God's kingdom can flow through us, because there's highways in our lives. You see, especially who's the people that do have highways in their lives when it becomes crisis situations and very difficult situations. Because people with highways, in difficult situations, they maybe move slower, but they still move. Because they've got ways in their heart. And people that do not have ways in their heart, when there's crisis, everything just comes to a standstill and it's chaos, and they get stressed, and they get they just want to scream and aggressive and all these things, because there's no flow in them. There's no place where they have sort of what we can say, they've exercised the disciplines in, so that it had become a certain way of living, a highway in their heart. They never think about it again. Think about raising children. Raising children and highways in their hearts is enormously important. It's actually the first enormous important principle in raising children. Because I think about, you got your children, they sit here in the children's chair, and the next thing the child will do is he will test you, will throw his spoon on the floor. And say, no, that's not acceptable. You take up the spoon, put it back, and then the child just throw it again on the floor. And then you sort of explode, you want to nearly kill the child, but you put the spoon back. The child is not impressed, because he sees that he can take you on a road. Because there's not highways in your own life. You cannot discipline a child in something that you are not disciplined. A child will never become more disciplined than what you as a parent are and what you as a parent live. It's important. You can pretend to have discipline, but what discipline do you live in your own life? You must, the real situation to create a highway is to sit and talk with this child and tell him, listen, the purpose of the spoon is to eat the food. I give you a spoon. If you throw it on the floor, you're not allowed to do it. If you do it, there will be consequences. And then the child will do it again, because he wants to see if you believe in what you've said is the consequences. Because most parents don't believe in their own consequences, and they don't put into effect their consequences. They just get angry and they get out of their mind, but they never apply the consequences. And then you need to give the child a hiding and to discipline him in a certain way, so that he can see that there is consequences to your actions that's not in the right way. And you apply it and apply it and apply it till it becomes a highway in the child's life, where he never throws the spoon on the floor again. You see, in raising a child, there's thousands of things that you need to build highways in a child's life. I mean, it's all about, can he touch that thing? Can he touch here? Can he eat this? Can he do this? Can he walk there? Because the child comes into the world and he's got no reference of anything. And it is not his fault. We need to give him the reference. We need to tell him what's where and where's the lines. And we need to help him to not only tell him what is the lines, but to help him reinforce it, so that it can become a way in his life. So that it becomes a thing that he the disciplines, there's certain disciplines consequently in their lives. And if you don't do that, it is a real dishonoring thing that you do to your child, not to allow him and not to help him to build highways in his life. And this especially happen between 0 and 3, where the child needs to learn about authority, and no is no and yes is yes, and to respond to it. Because if the child responds to yes and no, it becomes easy to build highways. But otherwise, we just battle through all this, and the child is just doing his own thing, and we're just going on, and he's frustrating us even when he's 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, because there's no highways. Because we're not living in highways. So it's important that you need to help the child to live in highways. Why is highways so important? The Bible tells us here 5 things about people that's got highways in their life. And it is extremely important to see this. It says here, blessed is the man whose strength is in you, whose ways is in their heart. Number one, the man that's got highways in his heart is a man that's got blessing in his life. Blessing flow from the inside to the outside. A man is a blessed being. Ephesians 1 verse 3 is saying to us that God has blessed man with every spiritual blessing in heavenly places. So man has got a blessing in him, but the blessing cannot manifest it. There's not a highway out. The blessing is in your spirit, but it needs to flow through your soul and your body to the outside. And you need to, God worked the blessing in your spirit, but you need to work it out. But it cannot come to the outside if there's not a channel. And your soul and your body is the channel. And if your soul and your body is running wild in all directions, there is no channel. Blessed is the man with highways, because the blessing in his spirit will manifest on the outside, will flow through him, because his highways will become the channel by which you can export and take this blessing to the outside. It's enormously important. People want the blessing on the outside, but they don't want the process for the road to get the blessing there. You see, don't get in love with the end result of the blessing. Get in love with the process that leads there. The process is a process of principles, of values, of disciplines that's over and over and over, that leads to a highway in your life that brings the blessing to the outside. Yes, we all love the blessing manifesting on the outside, but the process to get it there is not always easy, because it needs a application constantly and of disciplines, of values, of principles, and that I need to put on my mind, on my emotions, on my acts and my deeds and my attitudes and everything that's in my life. I need to create highways in every area of my life. So number one, blessed is the man that's got highways in his heart. The terminology highway comes from Isaiah, that tells us, that the Lord, when he comes, he builds highways. Highways is, it's different rough situations, but the moment there's a highway, it's a beautiful road, it's a flat road. You lower the mountains and you bring up the valley so that it becomes a straight road. So that we can travel quickly, we can travel fast, we don't spend lots of energy trying to go over the mountain, because someone has dig the mountain down at a certain place so that we can get a road through it, and we don't need to go over the real top of the mountain. So it's lots of effort. But in the second place, it says that when these people pass through the dry valleys, they make it a fountain. When they pass through dry valleys. Dry valleys is difficult circumstances. It's places of times of crisis in our life. Crisis in terms of relationships and finances and outer circumstances. You see people with highways in difficult circumstances. Why? Maybe the difficult circumstances make their pace a little bit slower, but they're still moving. Why? Because they've got highways. But the people without highways, they get into turmoil, they get into fear, they don't know what to do, they're just disorientated in every sense of the word, because there's no definite highway concerning for what do I live, how do I live, how do I live this life, what is my destiny, what is the plan in my life. Everything must become a highway, it must become settled out clearly. We must have clarity about everything, clarity about your identity, and who you are and what you're going to live and unto where you're going to live. It's highway. So number two, just imagine you. I mean, we don't like the deserts, but imagine there's suddenly a fountain in the desert. You can plant anything. You can make a paradise right in the middle of a desert if you have water. And this is the people with the highways. When they get into a dry land, they make it a fountain. Springs come up. Any type of plant can be planted there. People want to stay there, live there, dwell there, because where water is springing out, you can have life and build a town and a city around it. So this is an enormous important thing. They make the dry lands and the difficult situations fountains. At the end of the day, in the first place, they say these people are also, they get the early rain in their life. They get the early rain. It is not just that they get the rain. They get the early rain in their lives. It's in Afrikaans het sê ook oordek die vroeë reën dit met seëninge. They get the early rain in a blessing form, and the blessings come with it. You know, it's wonderful when you can have early rain, and you can have rain. You can have rain over a long period of time. Not only flow the blessing out of these people, blessing from the outside come to these people, because they already live in this blessing. Therefore, blessings on the outside come to them. If your life resonates with blessings, blessings will start to come to you. You see, it's just one of those things, because things of the same kind comes together. These are people with blessing flowing from the inside, but there are people that draw blessing unto them. They draw the early rain. They draw the blessing that come from the outside also to them. In the fourth place, it's saying here that they go from strength to strength. They go from strength to strength. These are people that make progress in their lives. They're not standing still. There's progress. And it's not just a little bit, on the same level. It's like progress. They go higher, 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 more and more strength and more provision and more joy and more word and more everything. Everything in their life just go from strength to strength. Everything in their lives grow. It is beautiful to see people that's constantly growing in everything in their lives. That is enormously important to understand that they are living in this growing process. You can think about it yourself. And then at the end of the day, it says, every one of them appears before God in Zion. Every one of them reach their destiny. Every one of them dream God's become a reality. Every one of them come to a place where they reach the fullness of what they were sent for on earth, because there was highways in their heart. Every one of them reached their destiny for what they were sent for on earth. Every one, people, because this is the key to success in your life, whatever you may define as success. But success is actually not having a certain amount of money. Success is to live the success that you are, to manifest the fullness of what God has made you, and to live that life and to have the highways in you. Because it's one thing to have the blessing in you, but the blessing must manifest. It is our responsibility. And highways are the key to the manifestation of this success, to the manifestation of this blessing. We need to create these highways and allow it to flow to the outside and to allow it to come to its full manifestations. Because people with highways are blessed people. There are people that draw blessing. There are people that make the dry lands a fountain land. There are people that grow from strength to strength, and there are people that reach their destiny. So hear me clearly. It's one thing, and it is not wrong to desire that type of life. But the only way to get it is to come to know that it is in you, number one. And number two, you need to create highways in your life where this blessing and life that God has put in you can start to manifest to the outside. I bless you with this life, and I really want to inspire you to make lots of effort to find the principles, to find the values, to find the disciplines, to find that lifestyle where it becomes a second nature and a default setting. Everything in your life with lots of ways of the Lord in your heart, because the highways of the Lord is in your heart. Thank you very much.